Today, my girlfriend and I are starting a crazy survival challenge on a deserted island. The deal is, we're on our own, no food, no shelter, nothing. Our ultimate mission right now is to scavenge for food and water ASAP. Our whole inventory is just this tiny bag with a few random items. Just dragged myself to the beach and already found a busted sandal washed up on the wet sand. For some reason, this wild grassy area is littered with broken flip-flops. By some stroke of luck, we snagged an empty glass bottle lying around looking pretty pristine. This piece of trash might just be our lifesaver in the middle of nowhere. Most urgent thing right now is to scrape off some dry coconut fiber for tinder. I'm struggling to crush this ragged coconut shell to gather a handful of the fluffiest fibers. Dark clouds are rolling in, so I gotta start a fire quick before the downpour hits. So I roll up my sleeves and carefully piece together this flimsy tinder pile on the sand. My girlfriend found some old lighters, but unfortunately none of them actually spark. Desperate times, call for smart measures. I filled the glass bottle with seawater to make a DIY-ifying glass. The blazing sun shines right through the water bottle, aiming straight at our tiny pile of tinder. I hold my breath, keeping the lens steady, making sure the light beam is super sharp. My arm's getting sore waiting for a spark, but patience is literally survival right now. Just as I'm sweating bullets, a tiny black speck suddenly pops up with a thin trail of smoke. The smoke is billowing up, proving all that sun-catching effort is finally paying off. A glowing red ember just appeared, and I'm frantically shielding it from the ocean breeze. I'm babying this coconut fiber, gently blowing on it to nurse this little flame to life. Gotta quickly move this glowing ember to a bigger pile of tinder to really get it roaring. The fire spreads fast, making crazy smoke, so I flip the coconut shell over it to trap the heat. The fire bursts into a bright blaze, and we're both screaming with joy all over this deserted beach. Now that we have a fire for warmth, I'm rushing around grabbing dry wood to keep it going strong. Tossing in a few dry branches, we can finally relax about staying warm tonight. Just as the celebration ends, we're hit with skin-burning heat and serious thirst. Dead tired, but we drag our exhausted bodies around to hunt for fresh coconuts for energy. Climbing over some obstacles by the fence, our eyes are darting everywhere for a young coconut. Suddenly I spot a torn neon orange life jacket stuck deep in the bushes. Even though it's too shredded to swim in, taking it apart to cover our heads from the sun works wonders. Desperate enough, I just toss this life jacket piece over my head to avoid getting roasted alive by the midday sun. Finally stumbled upon a row of loaded coconut trees, but the catch is, they're all super tall and slippery. Looking up at the crazy high tops makes me sweat, so I sadly just scan the ground for fallen ones. Climbing these would definitely break my neck, so I accept my fate as a ground scavenger. Running around forever, I managed to snag two pathetically dried up coconuts washed up on the wet sand. The shells look all wrinkly, but I'd rather drink every last drop of salty water than risk my life climbing a bare tree. Grabbing the dull machete, I put all my strength into hacking away the rock-hard dry husk. Hacking until I'm drenched in sweat just to dig out this tiny bare coconut shell inside. While loudly chopping this coconut, I'm secretly praying it's actually full of water. To not waste a single drop, I pull up a reed and snap it to make a makeshift straw. After trimming it up nicely, I stab it into the coconut's eye, ready to chug this literal life water. There wasn't much coconut water, but it was super sweet, like a lifesaver for someone dying of thirst on the beach. Passed it to my girlfriend to slurp down even while a swarm of hungry mosquitoes buzzes and bites us non-stop. Gaining back a little energy, we haul ourselves up to aggressively scavenge along the coastline. To survive long-term, you gotta have shade and fresh water. That's the unwritten rule. Splitting the dry coconut in half brought tears of joy. The thick, pure white meat looks insanely delicious. This rich, nutty coconut meat will pump some precious fat back into us to grind through the next few days. I was so busy munching away that I forgot the wild mosquitoes were tearing up my red, swollen arms. Wandering a bit more, we picked up a ton of junk, from a light bulb to a broken toothbrush. The biggest jackpot was this beat-up leather handbag washed up right under a sketchy bush. Seeing the bag was still usable, I threw it over my shoulder to act a little bougie in the middle of nowhere. Right next to it, randomly, was this massive fire ant nest crawling with protein-rich eggs. I was about to scoop up all these eggs for a snack, but the smart ants already grabbed their stash and bolted. The ant egg plan was a bust, so we grab our bag and charge straight into the deep, dark jungle to hunt for coconuts. The dense jungle blocks all visibility, and the tiger mosquitoes are competing to bite me, making me insanely itchy. Even worse, a few giant jungle spiders are dangling on their webs, waiting to ambush us right above our heads. Found a young coconut, flipped it over, and wanted to cry. Ants had already chewed a massive hole right through it. Held out a little hope for the second one, but bad luck, it was completely hollow and bone dry. Frustrated, we scrambled out of there, running back to the beach to escape the bloodthirsty mosquitoes. Back on the sand, I managed to yank a really old sack poking out by the trail. After shaking out all the wet sand, I rolled up the sack and tucked it away for later. By some miracle, the heavens tossed us a perfectly intact young coconut just chilling in the weeds. Bringing the coconut back to camp, I used a stick to poke a deep hole as a base for a pole. Scavenging some rotten branches, I forced together a sketchy tent frame to fight off the night wind. Sweeping some palm leaves over the flimsy roof, this raggedy tent finally has some shade. Crawling into the hut to dodge the sun, our 3 rare coconuts instantly turned into a luxury royal feast. No holding back anymore, I swung the machete and chopped the top off the biggest coconut, aiming straight for the soft core. Once popped open, I tilted my head back and chugged the sweet coconut water straight down my dry throat. Satisfying my thirst, I handed the rest to my girlfriend so she could get a little energy boost. Fully fed, we hyped ourselves back up, determined to tear down and rebuild a proper shelter to keep out the wild animals. Walking around with the machete, I chopped down a bunch more dry branches and shriveled palm leaves. Both of us struggled to drag this heavy, bulky load of materials back to the campsite. Spotting a massive bamboo pipe washed up on the sand, I excitedly sawed and whittled it down to make a crossbeam. Sticking the bamboo deep into the ground, I piled up sand to secure the main pillar of our sad little canopy. Resting the crossbeam on top of the pillar, the skeleton of our hut is finally looking way more solid. Patching up some loose broken ties, the core frame of our home is officially sturdy. Meanwhile, my girlfriend fans the fire to warm us up, getting ready to face the freezing night fog. And I'm rushing around gathering the last few palm leaves to line the floor and block the freezing drafts. Just gotta finish roofing it with leaves, and our survival base is standing tall, guys. Getting to work, the guy is struggling to drag a massive dry palm leaf through the jungle. Looks like he's trying to build a makeshift shelter to crash in for the night on the island. Carrying over a large branch for a support beam, this survival tent is starting to take shape. Carefully layering the leaves for a roof, this little hideout is actually looking pretty legit. He carries over a giant chunky log to use as a camp chair by the fire. Digging around in the bushes again, he finds some fresh leaves with some kind of cool use. Rubbing these leaves hard on the skin, this is a super effective, all-natural mosquito repellent hack. Rubbing it all over both arms. Surviving in the jungle without this trick means you're bug food instantly. Protective layer complete, our guy heads back to camp just as the sun starts to set. Pulling out a dry coconut, he swings his knife, hacking away by the fire to get a little snack. Holding the prize in his hands, this boss starts ranting about how insanely hard survival dinner is. Splitting the bone-dry coconut open, there's zero water inside, just rock-hard coconut meat. At least it's something to put in our stomachs. This stark white coconut will give us both a power boost. Tidying up around the fire a bit before crawling into the tent to hide from the night chill. The couple tucks themselves into the palm leaf tent, laying there chatting excitedly about survival plans. Pulling out a piece of foam found on the beach to use as a table, this tiny shelter is actually pretty cozy. Looks like it's gonna be a long night, the two of them sharing every inch of space in their temporary nest. The light flickers and the conversation slowly dies down to make way for some much-needed, exhausting sleep. Pitch black outside, the tent is scattered with all kinds of random junk scavenged from the beach. Sleeping on a bed of leaves is obviously not comfy. Tossing and turning forever before finally catching a little shut-eye. Next morning, our guy walks around the tent, double-checking how sturdy every layer of leaves is. Peeking inside to see if the little overnight fire still has any glowing embers left. Quickly tossing some dry twigs into the pit, getting ready to fire it up and warm up this island morning. The couple sits groggily on the log while the husband struggles to put on his torn-up shoes, ready to head out. Tying up his survival shoes tight. Today they're both trekking deep into the jungle to hunt for food. The guy tilts his head back at the towering coconut canopies. Today's goal is definitely snagging young coconuts. Lugging his beat-up backpack, he strides forward, parting the thick jungle leaves to find a path. Pushing through knee-high weeds, this tropical island expedition is getting intense. The dense jungle is packed with all kinds of tangled vines, blocking our daring explorer's path. He carefully weaves through the crisscrossing branches, trying his best not to get scratched up by thorns. The thick trees block out the sun with only a few rays of light barely peeking through the palm canopy. Exploring deeper, he doesn't forget to pan the camera to show off this incredibly beautiful, untouched scenery to everyone. Reaching out to touch a moss-covered tree trunk, feeling the wild nature totally surrounding him. Continuing to weave through the dense tree lines, the hunt for food is literally never easy. Spotting a target, he gets his knife ready, slicing through leaves and branches to get to the useful plants. Quickly hacking away some annoying branches, the boss is about to show off his top-tier survival skills right here. Using a super long pole, he's trying to poke down a bunch of young coconuts dangling way up at the top of the tree. Poking aggressively, the stubborn coconut finally gives up and thuds into the thick grass below. Pulling the pole back, the guy excitedly dives into the bushes to find his freshly harvested loot. Slipping through the leaves, he carefully feels around in the shin-high grass for those fresh coconuts. Scoring a pile of bright green young coconuts, lunch today is going to be an amazing thirst quencher. Using his razor-sharp survival knife, he quickly shaves off the tough green husk and carves a hole for a straw. With a tiny hole carved out, he happily hoists the coconut up, showing off this rare prize of fresh water. His wife instantly takes the young coconut, taking a huge, refreshing swig to make up for all that time with a dry throat. The sweet, cool coconut water beats the heavy heat of the tropical jungle, an absolute luxury drink. Hugging the heavy pile of coconuts, the couple trudges along the beach back to their beloved leaf hut. Piling the coconuts into a massive stash in front of the tent, our guy sits down and starts bragging about the mission. Pointing and giving his wife instructions, he maps out a plan to use this coconut stash to survive the next few days. Wandering around scavenging, he luckily finds an old shredded blue plastic tarp stuck in a tree. Back at the beach, the boss holds a knife in one hand and a wooden stick in the other, ready to start a fire. Placing the stick on the sand, he uses the knife to carefully carve out a friction groove to generate heat and spark a fire. Shaving the wood chips super thin, his fast moves scream experienced survival expert. Rubbing the stick non-stop into the wood groove, patiently sliding it back and forth waiting for smoke from the sawdust. After so much hard work sparking it, the warmth of the fire finally lights up the front of the survival tent. Hiding in the tent to dodge the wind, the couple shares and munches on crunchy pieces of old coconut meat. The wife eats her coconut while staring off into space, probably craving a way more decent meal. The husband is chomping away aggressively, mumbling to himself, trying to figure out what food to hunt next. Getting full on coconuts all day. It's a bit boring, but at least our stomachs have stopped complaining. Quickly grabbing the leftover young coconuts and stuffing them into the torn backpack, prepping for a backup plan. Ignoring the half-dry coconut tossed on a rotten log, the guy quickly packs up his gear to go fish hunting. Plopping down on a log, he takes off his soaked socks to chill for a bit before hitting the water to try his luck. Holding up two mismatched flip-flops to show off like rare loot, in tough times you gotta find the humor. Tossing the sandals aside and rolling his pants up to his knees, he struts out to the crystal blue beach with his fishing rod. Swinging his arm to cast the bait way out there, hoping the vast ocean blesses them with a protein-packed dinner. Standing casually reeling in the line along the white sand, his face is super focused, feeling for every little tug on the rod. Blue ocean, white clouds, with a vibe this chill, just standing in the water casting a line feels amazing. The tip of the rod suddenly bends and our guy instantly yanks hard, reeling super fast to pull a thrashing catch. Holding his ground in the water, he drags a shiny silver scat onto the shore, splashing a massive Holding his prize up high, he's waving it around, non-stop flexing his never-miss fishing skills. The fresh fish is still flopping hard. Tonight's dinner is going to be a massive feast after days of gnawing on coconuts. Carrying the fish back to the fire, he can't hold back his excitement and lets out a celebratory yell that echoes down the beach. Pushing the glowing coals together and adding a few kindling sticks, he's ready to turn this fish into a culinary masterpiece. Squinting at the gorgeous sunset dropping down, he sits waiting for the fish to cook, feeling absolutely euphoric. While waiting for the fish to sizzle and cook, our guy grabs his knife again to crack open a sweet coconut for dessert. Using the tip of his knife to flip the perfectly golden brown grilled fish, the amazing smell has my stomach screaming to eat right now. Hacking the rough dry coconut with thick meat in half, grilled coconut paired with ocean fish is honestly the best. Prying out a chunk of pure white coconut meat, showing it off with hungry eyes, a totally deserved reward for a hard day's work. The sky is getting dark and the feast laid out on green palm leaves looks so lavish, promising an epic dinner. Night falls and the crackling fire lights up this cozy, wild feast right on the shore with crashing waves. The couple savors the hot, flaky grilled fish and crunchy coconut meat, totally enjoying a satisfying day of survival. Night falls and we're sitting around snacking on grilled coconut meat by the warm fire. The nutty flavor of the coconut temporarily soothes our starving stomachs after a long, exhausting day. The next morning, I had to wake up super early, blowing super hard to reignite the dying embers. The smoke is blowing everywhere, burning my eyes, but on a deserted island, if you don't have fire, you're cooked. Struggling until my throat burns, but after all that effort, the fire finally flared up. Guys, toss the dry coconut shell right in to trap the heat, getting ready for the next big event. Over there is a sketchy leaf hut the two of us threw together yesterday to hide from the sun and rain. Stomach is growling loud again. Time to grab the rod and hit the beach for some breakfast. Guys, kick things off right away with a cute little striped fish, used fake bait, but the fish bit it like crazy. Cast a few more basic lines and immediately hooked another one. Boom, breakfast quota met. Skewered the fish right onto a branch and tossed it straight on the fire to grill it up piping hot. The insanely good smell of grilled fish wafting up has my stomach protesting loudly. While waiting for the fish to cook, my partner quickly wove some palm leaves to make a little food platter. The massive feast is served, perfectly charred grilled fish paired with super sweet fresh coconut water. It's absolutely bussin', pulling off this hot, perfectly white meat and taking a huge, satisfying bite. It was so good I devoured it clean, tearing it up until only the skeleton was left, just like this. Eating on an island still gotta be fancy. Picked a little flower to garnish the fish plate for romance. Living rough like this is actually kind of cool. Eating this healthy is exactly why I'm getting so shredded. After stuffing our faces, we gotta hype ourselves back up to prep for the next journey. Today, we decided to pack up the campsite and bounce to a different island. The weather's looking super gray, gotta dip fast before we get caught in a storm and literally cry. Gathering up our stuff around the hut, cleaning up the trash to leave the beach as pristine as we found it. Found that washed-up leather bag that's still pretty slick, guess we got some new gear to flex. Throwing the sack over my shoulder, we're heading straight into the deep jungle to find the boat dock on the other side. The path is crazy bumpy and overgrown, just hoping we don't step on any snakes or centipedes on the way. Just keeping our heads down and pushing forward. Our deserted island survival journey is still far from over. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel to see how we handle the new spot in the next episode.